You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Ask Drone U. Today we have a very exciting topic talking about the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018, which will be sure to change the way that we drone on. Welcome to the show. My name is Paul.
My name is Rob. This sounds very exciting, and I hope they actually accomplish some of these things and improve on some of them that they're talking about, because we could definitely improve the opportunities available to all these drone pilots out there.
Definitely. I think that's a good way to look at it. But before we get into it, I just want to say that today's show is brought to you by our friends at ColoradoDroneChargers.com. If you want to check them out, ColoradoDroneChargers.com. Now, if you're like me and you carry about 5 or 6 batteries tops because you're trying to not spend a gargantuan amount of money on batteries, but you're trying to have enough to be able to fly pretty much all day long. Well, when you have one of these chargers from Colorado Drone Chargers, you're able to charge 4 batteries at one time, not batteries in sync, essentially, so that you go from charging one battery to the next, to the next, to the next. This charger from Colorado Drone Chargers actually charges 4 batteries at one time, and I'm really excited to announce that at AUVSI Exponential Conference going on in Denver, Colorado at the end of the month, they will be releasing their new charger for all the Inspire series batteries.
Nice.
And I'm really excited about that. But if you want a discount on one of their chargers, which we do use here at Drone U, just use discount code DRONEU8. It's lowercase DRONEU8 to check it out. Also, a big special thanks from our friends, our supporters like you, those who are members of the Drone U community. Thank you very much for being a part of the Drone U community. I'm really actually honored and proud to be a part of this community. As of yesterday, PJ Kirkpatrick, one of our Drone U elite pilots, helped the Wisconsin state government solidify the federal pre-emption rules by essentially saying, these are the rules, we're not making any others, and local cities and municipalities, you can't make rules either.
So you can make a difference.
You really can make a difference. An awesome job, PJ Kirkpatrick, making Wisconsin a good place to fly.
Absolutely.
So, really appreciate that. If you're not a part of the Drone U community, I recommend you become a part of the community. Just go to droneu.education or thedroneu.com. Because you're going to get access to 29 classes. You're going to get access to resources, documents to help you streamline your system, your business. And it always updates. There's always new stuff going in there. And we're really excited to just, to have the Drone U flying coming up, the conference. So
we need to talk about that.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
good job.
I was trying to figure out how do I segue into that. And I did a really bad job.
That's okay. It doesn't matter.
So the Drone U Fly-In is our second annual conference going on in 2018. And if you guys remember, the Drone U Fly-In is the only drone conference that actually has real-world flight missions, not just like one-off mission that happens before the conference. Like our entire conference is drone-based flight missions. So there are 9 separate missions. There are multiple stations inside of each mission. Pilots are going to be flying for 3 days straight at the Albuquerque Balloon Museum and Balloon Fiesta Park, taking place August 3rd through August 5th.
Correct.
I believe it is.
That's right.
And also, really cool thing, we're going to have our mixer this year inside of the Albuquerque Balloon Museum. So all of the people who attend the conference this year will actually have a free opportunity to view all the aviation exhibits inside of the museum itself, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I just got to say.
No, they've done a really great job with that museum. It's fun to check those things out.
And for the first year ever, we are opening up the conference to non-Drone U members. So if you are sitting there listening to this and you're like, I'm not a Drone U member, I wonder if I can go. You can. It will cost a little bit more. So if you become a member and then sign up, it's actually cheaper that way. But you're going to want to check it out, droneuflyin.com. Again, droneuflyin.com. Last year it was sold out. We absolutely loved it. We had a blast. This year we've got more space, more time to fly, and more information to give you. Mm-hmm. And in fact, 2 of the new missions I'm really excited about. I'm just going to give you 2, and I'll give you 2 more tomorrow.
And you can see them all on the site, by the way.
You can see them all on site, droneuflyin.com. 2 I'm really excited about. The crime scene mapping. Mm-hmm. So we're actually getting 2 cars to have a car accident on purpose at our event. Like literally.
Wait a minute. They're not going to actually drive and crash, are they?
Oh, yeah. I set that up.
Really?
Because we need a skid mark so we can measure the skid mark. Not like the skid mark on the back of your pants, like a skid mark on the road.
Thank you for that.
Just had to clarify.
Yeah, it's important. I didn't know that we were going to actually have cars crashing. I mean, I thought we were going to have crash cars there, but I didn't know.
Doesn't it seem more practical when you teach someone how to do crime scene mapping that measuring skid marks to the accuracy that's necessary?
Hey, do your thing. It's going to be fun. Okay, and the number
next
two
one
thing?
is called the target drop. So last year we did the fast water river exercise, which is essentially guys taking foam, what are they called? Foam life preservers. Mm-hmm. They're fake life preservers. Yeah, they're faux life preservers.
Yep.
And dropping them in an area. But this year we're still doing that this year, and we're going to have a little bit different spin on it, but we're also adding this target practice. So we're putting a landing pad and then measured targets around the landing pad. We're going to be using a new drone. I'm really excited about this. And essentially, students are going to fly our drones. This is one of the few exercises you'll be flying our drone. Flying our drone at 75 feet or higher. I want to do 100 at least 10 miles an hour. And students get 3 opportunities to drop a real life preserver onto the landing pad.
Very cool.
At 75 feet at 10 miles an hour.
Wow, that's a small target from 100 feet.
Exactly.
Wow.
But here's a cool thing. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, no, go ahead, finish.
I was going to say the cool thing about all this is that this year, like last year, we had all the stations set up so that students were graded, right? The whole conference was gamified. So you're not only just going to a conference to learn from other people, to learn how other drone pilots do their thing.
Which is awesome in and of itself.
Agreed. But also, you are being graded on each mission that you do. But instead of last year where it was just like, okay, do the mission and you're being graded, now you're getting to practice each mission before and actually do run-up exercises. These are these new stations before you go into the mission itself. But it's going to be gamified again this year. The winner of the Drone U conference, so we haven't decided which drone we're going to give away to the winner, but there will be drones as giveaways. Whoever wins the fly-in this year will be getting a drone. Some winners will be getting some cash. Some winners will be getting some accessories. Some winners will be getting stuff from our sponsors. There's going to be a lot of giveaways.
A lot of cool stuff.
But you could single-handedly pay for your fly-in by winning the fly-in.
Yeah, you could.
That's what happened to Jim Noss last year.
Yeah, which was a lot of fun because he did not think that he had the capabilities of winning, and he just kind of blew everybody away.
I thought it was funny, too, because remember in the beginning, he was like, oh, I'm not that good.
Yeah, he was all Mr.
Try sandbagger.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Gotcha.
Well done, Jim. That's all I can say about that.
All right.
It's a lot of fun, and it bears mentioning we do limit it to 100 people because we need to make sure everybody has ample flying time, and so you need to get in if you want to come.
And you can expect about, I would say, 12 actual hours on the sticks in 3 days, maybe more. There's 16 hours of flight time in 2 days, but I don't think you're going to be flying the whole time.
No.
So anyway.
I mean, you are part of a group, and so you're working together through a group.
True.
Through the exercises. But
so check it out, droneuflying.com. But now let's get to our topic of the day. Sorry, that was a long rant, guys. Representative Schuster just introduced a new drone bill, the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018, which would actually financially fund the FAA until late 2023. Now, this is a really large bill that actually encompasses a lot of subjects outside of drone law. It encompasses air traffic control. It encompasses certificates for other airplanes. It encompasses rules they're trying to implement because of the Allegiant Air stuff that's been going on. There's a lot of stuff in here. And there's even some stuff that you may recognize. If you remember the Modernization Act of 2012, there are sections from Section 331 to 336 that are almost carbon copied into this new Reauthorization Act. But also we're seeing some other bills that are coming into this. Some bills that have failed. We're seeing language from failed bills trying to get into this. Like, for example, you may notice some things in this Reauthorization Act that you would have saw from the Air Act of 2017. So, again here, I think we're seeing another IPP play, by the way, from this. One of the things here is that the new Reauthorization Act tells the Department of Transportation to conduct a study on the regulation and oversight of a low-altitude operation of small unmanned aircraft and small unmanned aircraft systems. In addition, appropriating rules and responsibilities to federal, state, local, and tribal governments in regulating and overseeing the operation of small unmanned aircraft in airspace 400 feet above ground level and below. Now, this is important. Now, because this bill also says that the Comptroller General of the United States is supposed to do a study on appropriating a fee to recover the costs of the regulation and safety oversight of unmanned aircraft and unmanned aircraft systems and the provision of air navigation services to unmanned aircraft and unmanned aircraft systems. So does that mean that we're essentially going to have to pay a new fee to have new systems? Because
I'm sure it does.
I think that's also ridiculous because, I mean, look, there are, 70,000 Part 107 pilots. There are over 800,000 registered drones. We know there are over 8 million actual drones in the United States. And we've only really had one proven issue with drones and aircraft and safety. So why do I need to pay more money for the government to tell me they don't know how to regulate this thing? They're going to hope that through the applications of industry stakeholders and people who, AKA, pay a whole gargantuan amount of money, are going to figure this out for them.
That's a valid question, unless they are subsidizing some of that work that the private companies are doing. And I would imagine that they would be in creating the UTM and building that out, because it does sound like that's going to be done predominantly, correct me if I'm wrong, by private companies, technology companies, because that's a big undertaking, obviously. One of the things I was thinking about with regards to that, Paul, and fees is, not that I'm suggesting this is the solution or a good solution, but I would wonder if they might do this through some sort of an additional tax, because you could see them every time somebody buys a drone, kind of like when you buy cigarettes, or even in some local communities when you buy soda.
But wouldn't they need the power to tax in order to do that?
No, absolutely. I mean, They
would have to get that power through Congress, correct?
Probably. Yeah, I think that's probably right. But nonetheless, it is an avenue that they could take, because I don't know how else they're going to generate fees, because, for example, how many are registered? How many drones? 70,000-ish?
Yeah. No, how many drones are registered? About 800,000 plus.
Okay, so how many drones are actually out in the...
About 8 million.
There you go. So that means that the law-abiding, rule-following drone pilots, those 800,000 people, are going to be footing the entire bill. Whereas the people that are not paying or are not registering their drone, for example, would not be paying the fee. Because if those people aren't registering their drone, I don't know how you're going to get a fee from them.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Anyways, there's a lot of unanswered questions there, obviously.
I think so, and I just having an extra fee just seems problematic because, and we're going to talk about this later on. Unless enforcement increases, you could just enforce the things that are not being done correctly, and there's your money. I mean, what about all the money from registration? Remember all the people who paid the $5 into registration, got their $5 back, and now you have to register again?
Yes.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, but again, $5, I know that sounds like a lot of money. To us it is. 800,000 times 5, whatever that number is.
Enough money to regulate this.
You think so? Or to build out UTM or any of those kinds of bigger issues? I think they're going to have to, because I think that's kind of what this is getting at as far as fees are concerned, is helping to foot the cost of the infrastructure for these safe flights down the road. Bueno. Either way, I don't like the fee structure whatsoever. So I don't think it's a good idea. But I think something that's also important is that, we just talked about how the FAA is saying that, we need to have a new study to appropriate rules and responsibilities of state and local regulators regulating drones below 400 feet. Isn't that pretty much the point of the IPP? Well, and by the way, I just want to clarify. This is Representative Schuster and the bill that he has proposed, right? So this is not the FAA doing these things. In fact, he's speaking to the FAA saying, you need to do these things.
Yes.
Right? So my understanding is that as it relates to, for example, what you and Vic talked about on a previous episode about the 200 feet and below, the FAA is going to fight that, I would think. Mm-hmm. That would be my guess. So some of these things in here that we might get worked up about, the FAA is probably going to push back on to begin with. Gotcha. I would think so anyways. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, time will tell. It's a proposed bill, right? And exactly. That's absolutely right. I will say, though, with this whole
let's have a study on whether states can do this or not. I think this is actually good because if a state or local lawmakers are like considering creating regulation or law, you can be like, well, hold off because the federal government is creating a study on how likely and how effectively this could be done. And I think it would probably be in everyone's best interest if we waited a little bit to see what comes down the pipe and then create local laws, as there are already federal laws on the books, which, by the way, you can get in the advocacy kit from Drone U if you need to give a piece of documentation to a politician or a regulator. It has a cover letter. It has all the federal preemption laws, how one local state or one local government tried to preempt the laws and failed in court. It's got everything you need to maintain your protections to fly. And what I'll do is I will upload it to my website and I will send you a link because I don't want any more Google Drive links going out. So all in all, I think the research is a good thing. The fee is a bad thing. I know we're kind of all over the place here.
Yeah, I think the research is a good thing because you're right. Some of these local governments, they might realize, state and local governments, they might realize that they're getting more than they bargained for in trying to regulate some of this stuff. On top of the fact that most of it they don't need to regulate because it's already taken care of.
Agreed. And that's probably the argument I would use instead of my argument of you're a local regulator and how much do you really know about federal law and drones, because until you can tell me what the law is, we shouldn't be having a conversation. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Intellectually owning regulators is something I enjoy. Because I just feel that local regulators should be really educated on what they're regulating, and until they're willing to do that, they shouldn't have the power to regulate. Just my opinion.
I think that's a fair expectation.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody could disagree with that.
Yeah. So another question that someone has mentioned in the community is, would this FAA Reauthorization Bill essentially, would it cause the user fees for us to pay for the universal traffic management system? Is that essentially what they're getting at? Because
that's how I took it, yeah.
If $4 million is what they made, and who knows what they have from registration, but if $4 million is what they have, then that's not going to be enough to do the universal traffic management system. At least I don't think so.
Oh gosh, not even close. I don't think.
So actually, let's talk about the UTM really quick, because this new Reauthorization Act does tell the FAA to, quote unquote, initiate a rulemaking to establish procedures for issuing air navigation facility certificates. Very interesting. Facility certificates. So are they going to create a navigation system like the UTM for drones? That's kind of like the VFR system. Is that how they're going to create navigation certificates? That's interesting to me. They also say that it's supposed to provide for unmanned air traffic management system or communication, navigation, or surveillance system or service to get approval prior to rulemaking. That's interesting too. So they have to figure out a system and get it approved prior to making a rule to implement it. That's interesting. So as far as model aircraft are concerned, it says for the Section 336 protected aircraft, this bill would add that an aircraft cannot be considered a protected model aircraft if it flies over or within 500 feet laterally of a facility that operates amusement rides for the general public, unless authorized by the owner of the amusement facility. So all you hobbyist drone pilots out there who are saying you have permission to fly wherever you want and film cool things like Six Flags and like Schlitterbahn, although Schlitterbahn may not be wanting to be filmed anymore since their whole Oklahoma debacle.
Yeah, that's just awful.
But anyway, you will no longer be able to do that.
Well, doesn't it say unless authorized? Yeah, unless authorized by the owner of the amusement park. But I just find it funny that this specifically is called out in this bill.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Because how many examples of this type of thing could we come up with?
True.
Anyways.
I also find it interesting because any FAA person will tell you the minimum amount of time it takes them to get to any person they're trying to enforce against is 24 hours. And, at this point, this again puts the onus on local enforcement officers.
And they're not interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I've not heard of one that is.
Most of the time when I deal with police officers, I hand them that little card that PJ created. and say, this is how you're supposed to deal with drone stuff. My name is Paul. I'm happy to help. Don't want to cause any problems. If you have any questions, like, I'm here to answer all of them. And if I'm ever in the air at the time, I just say, well, hold on, let me land. Because sometimes you don't have much time to get the shot that you need. Like, it's at golden hour, and talking to a police officer could literally like ruin your opportunity. So it's just, it's important. You know what? I think that's also why the FAA is pushing for drone operators to wear the high-vis vest, because then you quote unquote look official. But I don't think that we should be generalizing good drone pilots versus bad drone pilots, whether they wear a freaking lime green vest or not. Like, oh, the lime green vest, he's good.
Right.
I mean, how do you think all these, sophisticated criminals have figured out, and the FBI too, that white vans and construction cones are their best friends? Because it makes them look legit without actually being legit. So I don't know. I think it's oversight. They also, when it comes to 336, this new bill would also allow for flight instruction or educational flights, even if compensated, to be done in the protected model aircraft category. So that means places like Drone U would still be under this model aircraft, which I find quite interesting. It also goes to show that thing that we were talking about previously in a show where someone came out and said he's the only Part 141 drone school approved. There is no Part 141 drone school. And most of the people online figured that out and started writing some pretty nasty comments on his page. Sorry for that.
Yeah, we live in an age when those kinds of things get snuffed out pretty quick and
which is good.
Dealt with
Which
publicly.
is good.
Yeah, it is.
That's good.
Absolutely.
It's like you're
it's an
for trying to
accountability
trick
function.
people, and we figured it out, and it's not really going to help you. So being truthful and honest is always the way to go. So here's the thing. In the reauthorization bill, though, what I find really interesting is that they now define a community-based organization. So you're no longer going to be able to be like, I'm a part of a CBO, I'm a part of Drone U, I'm good with that. They are saying that in order for a community-based organization like the AMA to actually create community-based rules that people will actually have to follow, that CBO has to be, quote-unquote, 501c3 by the IRS, exempt from tax under 501a, that also the mission of which is demonstrably the furtherance of model aviation, and they provide a comprehensive set of safety guidelines for all aspects of model aviation, addressing the assembly and operation of model aircraft that emphasize safe aero modeling operations within the national airspace system and the protection of safety of individuals and property on the ground. They must also provide programming and support for any local charter organization, affiliates, or clubs, and they must provide assistance and support in the development and operation of a locally designated model aircraft flying sites. I have a really poignant question. It might be condescending, as Mark Zuckerberg would say, but how is an institution like the AMA actually going to meet these guidelines when they're selling insurance? Because you can't be a 501c3 and sell insurance, can you?
You can. It would be unrelated business income.
Oh,
so
CPA over here. Dun, dun, dun.
So you can actually be a nonprofit.
Why
and
Rob
then
is teaching the business class.
So yeah, no, you can definitely be technically a nonprofit and have a stream of income, a stream of revenue or whatever that actually does get taxed as unrelated business income. But there are all kinds of rules associated with that. So that in and of itself would not preclude them from being CBO.
Gotcha. I think all in all, what the FAA is trying to do here is really limit the interpretation and definition of a CBO and hobby flights. I think this is the first coming down on reckless hobby flyers. So I mean,
and trying to explain it away under the umbrella of something like the AMA. Is that like I'm a member or whatever?
I honestly, in my opinion, I think it's too late. I mean, hobby flyers. What we should do is we should have like one of those shows where we go out in the public and go to FAA offices and at aviation events, or someone buying a drone and be like, "Do you know what a CBO is? Do you know the rules around flying? Do you care what a CBO is?" I mean, like, I really just...
It's like a Jay Leno skit.
Yes, but seriously, like, you just wait for someone at Best Buy to go up and look at a drone and be like, "Do you know the rules for flying drones?"
And they just look at you and walk out and go fly their drone.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, okay, so there is good news, though, for commercial drone operators. as this new bill tells the FAA to update a few parts of 107, specifically 107.205 and 107.25 to allow those flying a drone from a moving vehicle or under a beyond line of sight waiver to be able to carry other person's property and compensation for hire.
Or higher, yeah. So
all that says to me is 2 words, Rob. Are you ready?
Somebody got paid. That's what that tells
Amazon
me.
Prime. Sorry, those are my 2 words.
Yep.
Amazon Prime.
I mean, I don't. We don't know, but we know how things work over there in the DC.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Make it happen.
I lived there long enough. I know about damn tricks.
That cracks me up. It's so it's transparent and yet not, and yet not. All right, cool. But that's cool. I mean,
government regulators trying to regulate my stuff.
We'll see what happens.
Anyway, all right. In addition, they want on the FAA website a sample of safety justifications offered by applicants for SUAS waivers and airspace authorizations that have been approved by the administration for each regulation waived and class of airspace authorized.
That's interesting.
Weird. Sounds like they're trying to take away our business here, Rob. They're trying to do YouTube videos on how to get waivers and authorizations.
Is that what they're doing?
That's what it sounds like to me, which is really funny because it says a sample of safety justifications offered by applicants. The FAA cannot even come up with a way to tell you how to do an operation safely under their laws. That's pathetic.
Well, all they would need to do is share.
Where is my tax money going?
Share the applications that people have submitted, right? That they've approved.
That's what this is saying.
Right.
This is saying like
it's a
now
pretty
you
simple
have
thing.
to show other people who have been approved. I kind of like this though. I kind of like this because what it's saying is you've already approved that. Since you've already approved that, now you have to approve every app and waiver that comes through with the same writing, because we have known from the nighttime waivers that we have put out that they have changed what they're doing, and every waiver and application is dependent on who looks at it. There is no system.
And I don't know that this would change that, but I think at least it gives people an idea of what the FAA is looking for, which I know is what you're saying, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because you know what they're looking for, they're going to approve it. But one of the things it does is it kind of levels the playing field. The other thing that it does is it eliminates the need for, and a lot of people might have used attorneys for some of this stuff, probably eliminates much of the need for attorneys to do some of these things.
True.
I would imagine.
True.
So I think there's a lot of positive in doing this for sure.
Well, I like your optimism, Rob.
I'm trying to
in general,
be Paul.
In general. All right, let's continue. Commercial drones. This bill also tells the FAA to establish a small UAS air carrier certificate for transporting property for compensation or hire. I'm just going to call Jeff Bezos and be like, how much did you pay to write this bill?
Exactly. Which of your underlings wrote this bill?
Can I get on the Amazon Prime Air team? I actually, do you know back in 2014, I got an offer to go work for Amazon Prime Air. 2014.
Wow.
One of the few people who actually
Back
had,
in the day.
Yeah, the educational wherewithal.
Anyways, it's going to be
Okay.
fun. I can't wait to get my first delivery from Amazon Prime Air.
I'm going to celebrate like a little... I'm
going to order the heaviest thing I can.
I think it's going to have like a 5-pound payload limit.
Oh, I know. But
Because,
that's why I said I can.
You know what? Thank you. Because if they're going to be creating a carrier certificate for transporting property or compensation, chances are there's going to be a payload limit because they do want to create risk-based guidelines.
Oh, there will have to be a payload limit. I'm just curious what it is, and whatever it is, I'm going to push it just
Or
to
is
see
it
if
a
it actually makes it.
calculation of the aircraft itself?
Yeah, right. All
Or is
those
it a
things.
calculation of the payload, the aircraft, and the distance it can fly?
Yes. Right? It's
Wow.
got to include all those things.
Well,
some big old fat
maybe.
algorithm. No.
You'd hope.
I would
We're talking about the
sure
government
hope.
here. Okay?
Well, and we're talking about
But let's
Amazon.
talk about this for a second. They want applicants to create the content for them to put on their website for other people to learn. Okay? That's something that we've already kind of said in the federal government that we're going to do anyway. So they have to be told to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the type of people we're talking about here.
Okay.
All right. I'm just making a point. Okay. The new bill
Anywho.
also says or tells the Department of Transportation to develop a classification system for SUAS air carriers to establish economic authority by only requiring registration with the DOT and have a valid SUAS air carrier certificate issued by the FAA. Sounds like they're trying to create federal preemption for air carriers that are UAS.
Cool.
They're also extending test sites for 6 more years. Now, here's something that's really interesting because we were going to do a podcast on this and actually decided not to. Or did we do the show on Indian tribes?
We did not. No, we didn't.
Yeah.
We want to.
So we really want to do a show on Indian tribes because the Halupai nation believes that they have rights to the airspace. And they prosecuted someone and confiscated their RV, their car, everything, put them in jail. And the FAA has not put out an official statement to say that the sovereignty of the Indian nations does not include the airspace. I think the proof is in the pudding. The writing is on the wall. You could not have an easier, dumber legal argument in the history of mankind other than saying if you own the airspace to all these nations, let's just talk about the Navajo Nation, right? If you talk about the Navajo Nation in scope and size, it's about as big as a decent-sized state, okay? And large. It runs between Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. 4 corners area, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. If the FAA were to just simply come out and say, Indians, you do not have the rights to the airspace, all this would go away. But the FAA hasn't done that. So what happened when this guy had all of his stuff taken from him, let me just go back. I'm going all over the place because I'm getting just so mad in my mind right now because people think that they have this innate right to everything of the earth, and it really just gets me irritated because if the Indians had the legal right to control the airspace, then that means every single flight from American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, Allegiant Airlines, every flight going into Flagstaff, every flight going into Las Vegas, every flight going into Page, Arizona, every flight going into Durango, and every flight going into Albuquerque would have to have your permission to land at the airport. Now, since that is not happening at all, ever, there is your easy, dumb legal argument that the feds have the sovereign control of the airspace, even if you have sovereign control of the land. You do not have sovereign control of the airspace. Otherwise, we would have one complex and dilapidated system for controlling the airspace around Navajo nations. So in this new bill, they're saying that all it is saying in regards to Indian tribes is that they can obtain public aircraft status using unmanned aircraft. FAA, you need to put out a statement in regards to airspace sovereignty over Indian nations. It is causing a lot of problems right now. Thank you. President Begay of the Navajo Nation, I think it's really important for you to put a memo out saying what is the actual law, because a lot of your police officers are very confused about what the law is. And in fact, in speaking to some outside of Gallup, I've literally gone up to him because, one of my good friends, for lack of a better word, Lake Powell droner, and myself utilize the Navajo Nation to fly Lake Powell. It's the only legal way to do it. And one guy got a scare from a police officer, and everyone's raising their hands up right now like, whoa, 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 whoa. We can fly here. This is a good economic benefit to you. It is not harming the land whatsoever. Here's why. All right, I'm really going down the rabbit hole rants.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were quite so passionate about that particular issue.
I am because... Well, yeah, I have a very specific reason, but if people can fly in the Navajo Nation, now the Grand Canyon is open for flying legally. If National Park Service would get their heads out of their butts, we would have some legal way to get permits to fly in national parks. No, I say that because they have their own drone team. We train their head drone trainer. That's why I say, get your head out of your butts, guys. Let create a system to allow people to get permits because it's just ridiculous. And guess what? YouTubers all over are flying your parks no matter what. Anyway, I see pictures, and they're gorgeous pictures on Instagram every single day. So, create a rule or...
You get some revenue from it, right?
Yes.
With permit fees and so forth.
Yes, agreed. This is just so stupid. Anyway, okay,
all right.
Back to the bill.
This is a long podcast.
So,
if you're still with us, you're amazing.
Thank you. So anyway, they also tell the FAA to develop and track metrics to assess compliance with and the effectiveness of the registration of small unmanned aircraft systems with respect to the levels of compliance with the interim final rule and any subsequent final rule. So there was a specific lawyer who put out an article a while ago, and I forget exactly what it said, but the FAA's projection of hobby registrations versus actual. And I would say that, he said we would be within, 30 or 40%. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that we're actually in the less than 1% of 1%. So essentially, this bill calls for a lot of research. It's going to clamp down on hobby rules. It's going to offer more opportunity for drone pilots who are commercial operators. In addition to that, I really think it's going to be a great thing for drone delivery services. But I don't see anything in here about the relaxed enforcement philosophy at the FAA. Let's see. Although, look, this article is just so wrong. I've never seen something that's so wrong. There's an article saying that the total number of prosecutions since 2015 against unmanned aircraft flyers is at least 50. We have millions of flights with tons of stupid and illegal activity all over the internet. And it's just 50. This bill tells the FAA to track some stuff and the DOT's IG office to track the FAA's progress on this. There are only 2. So, Mr. Lawyer, you gotta saddle up here, buddy.
Since 2015? Did we look that far back?
We have since the implementation of Part 107, which is 2016.
So there could have been 333 enforcements. There could have been other enforcements that are included in that 50.
But here's the thing. Your rule is only as good as the enforcement, and the enforcement is only as good as the person being tracked who's doing the enforcement. So if there's
Sure.
My point is, if there's no enforcement for lack of enforcement, the chances of overall enforcement are low. Here's how you know that. There are additionally no penalties for the FAA not doing more enforcing.
Yeah. The bottom line is whether it's 50 or 2, there's no enforcement.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not happening. And based on that clip you showed me of the Allegiant story, they don't have time for enforcement of this kind of stuff.
Yep. Anyway, well, that does it for today's long episode of Ask Drone U. We had to cover this new rules because, as always, we kind of do that. So wanted to really make sure that you got the inside knowledge, in-depth coverage, and you know what you need to know in order to educate those out in the field. If you appreciate the podcast, please leave us a review on Overcast, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Greatly appreciate those reviews. We've got about 195 on iTunes right now. Thank you. That helps other people find the show. So if you can take 30 seconds to leave us a review, it means the world to me. Really, it really, really means the world to me. So please do that. Otherwise, become a Drone U member, and you'll have more access than you could ever imagine. That's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.